Hi, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to cut an off-shoulder bustier top. This top tends to be very fitted towards your waist region, thereby snatching your waist and giving it this beautiful curvy look around your waist. It's a freehand sewing tutorial, so make sure you stay to the end so you can follow the step-by-step procedure in cutting this top. We're starting right now. These are the materials needed for this class. I've got my beautiful Ankara fabric, my lining to add it up. Then I've got my long zip for the front. It's beautiful and fancy. I've also got my scissors, my measuring tape, my tailoring chalk, and my pattern master for it. Okay, I've folded my fabric into two and marking my full length. The full length for this top is 25 inches and I'm marking out 26 inches with extra 1 inch for turning the lining inwards. So I'm trying to mark it out in a block form. And the width measures 16 inches. I actually gave extra allowance so I will have extra space to play around with. So I'm making it in a straight form and cutting it out this way. Work with your body measurements or your client's measurements. So I'm marking out for the zip allowance because the zip is going to be in front. I'm marking up 1.5 inch for the zip allowance. Half inch is to turn it in with the lining, while 1 inch is to join the zip. So I'm making it out in a straight form. After making this, you ensure your line is straight and your fabric is laying down flat, no folded areas. So at this point, I realized I made a little mistake. I forgot that I was cutting off shoulder. I went to draft a pattern or to draw a line for a bustier with shoulder. So I realized my mistake, and at this point I just have to drop 4 inches. I realized what happened. So at this point I'm dropping 4 inches out of the full length in the fabric. So I dropped 4 inches to get my full length and get the neck area, my new neck area. So I'm marking out the 4 inches like so, making it in a straight form to avoid bended curves. So after drawing my straight line, I'm going now to mark out 5.5 inches. So this 5.5 inches works for most body types except from busts of 42 upwards. You can use 6 inches. 6 inches is the highest that you can use. So I've marked out my 5.5 inches. Now I'm making down my vertical measurement like so, my nipple point, which is 10 inches, my under bust, which is 14 inches, and my waist is 17 inches. So I'm marking it down in the other side, on the underside, just to make the line in a straight form. Remember to work with your body measurements in drafting this beautiful top. So I've gone ahead to make my lines in straight, and at this point I'll be marking out my horizontal measurement. That's the nipple to nipple measurement for this top. The nipple to nipple measurement is 7 inches, which is 7 inches divided by 2 will give you 3.5 inches, but I used 4 inches for this one, extra half inch for joining the bust area. So I marked down my horizontal measurement and drawing it in a straight line. So at this point, I will going down to my under bust. On the inside, on the side front, I'll be marking 1.5 inch, that's 1.5 inches. And on the other center front, I'll be marking half inch on the center front, and I'll draw it out in a straight form. Note this 2 inches that we took out inside this bust curve, because it will be necessary when joining your dress or marking out the side. So I'll go on the upper part where I took my 5.5 inches, and I'll take 1 inch on both sides and draw it out, so giving it this beautiful curve for the bust area. So if you can see, I didn't start from the bust point to make the curve. I took like half inch downwards just to make it not to be pointed. So on the upper part, that's the neck area, I will measure what I have inside that's the upper bust tightening, and I have 2 inches there. So 2 inches plus the extra inches that is remaining for the center front. That's, if you measure this from that line to the center front, it will be giving 4.5 inch, plus the 2 inches will be giving 6.5 inch. Then you have to add back the 2 inches that you took out from the neck area to get your neck width. So I've gotten my neck width, and I've dropped my 4 inches to get my armhole measurement, and my armhole measurement is 7.5 inches. So I'm drafting now my bust measurement, that's my bust width, adding any inches I'm cutting out in that line. For this bust area, I'm cutting out 1 inch in between the dot line. I added it to my bust measurements with extra 2 inch allowance. This is the same thing I will do for the under bust, for the waistline, and for the hip area. So for the under bust, I'm going to cut out 2 inches while cutting out the dart, and I'll divide my under bust, which is 29 inches divided by 4, plus extra 2 inches that I'll be cutting out, plus extra 2 inches for my allowance, for my normal body allowance. So that's what I'll be marking on my under bust region. Same thing applies on my waistline. My waist is 27 inches, and 27 inches divided by 4 will give you a number, plus the 2 inches I'll be cutting out on my dart line, plus extra 2 inch for my normal body allowance. That's what I marked out there. Same thing applies to my hip measurement. I'll be doing the same thing for my hip region. My hip is, or the hip I'm working with, is 38 inches divided by 4, plus 2 inch dart intake, and plus extra 2 inch body allowance. I'll be making the curve like so. Please be accurate with your measurement to achieve a perfect fitting on this top. I'll use my master pattern to sharpen the area or to reduce the sharp edges. I've gone ahead to curve my armhole, and at this point I need to mark out 1.5 inch. You can use 2 inch because most times after joining your bust darts, one is always shorter than the other side. That the center front is always shorter than the side front. So I took up 1.5 inch just to make it equal when joining it. And for my neck depth, I took in 1.5 inch. Depending on the neck choice you want, you can make your sweetheart neck, you can make yours normal neckline. So I've marked it out and I've shaped it like so. So it's time to cut. Okay, I'm done cutting them, and I need to divide my center front because I'll be putting a zipper there, so it has to be open. At this point, I'll be notching out my bust points, my underbust, my waistline, so it will guide me while joining the bust darts. I'll keep that aside. So it's time to cut the back. So for the back, I normally use the front to cut the back. I'll place the front on the back like so, trying to adjust it and make sure everything is seated properly and aligning to each other. Okay, I'll overlap it with half inch. The half inch I'll use to join it. That's what I did now, and I'll mark out where the zip dart is, the zip line is, so I'll use it to shape my darts. After cutting it, I'll be shaping the back, to give it this snatchy effect at the back region. So I marked out my neckline for the back, and I'll raise the center front to join it to the side fronts. So this is what the back looks like now. I'll remove the front to shape my back properly. So I'll be shaping my back with the zipper allowance that I gave for the front. So I will draw out the 1.5 inch I gave for the front zipper allowance. I'll be making it in a straight form so I can be able to shape my back properly. So after making it in a straight form, on the waist region, you can decide to drop your 4 on the armhole region and get your waistline on your back. So that my waistline is 17 inches, and I'll be making it in a straight form. After making it in a straight form, I will go in by half inch. You can go in by 1 inch, 0.75 inch, depending on how snatchy you want it to be. 100% snatching of waist can be, you can go in by 1 inch to give it 100% snatching of waist. And towards the hip area, I came out by half inch to also help me join the back together. And the upper part, I measured from the waistline upwards 8 inches to get the upper part, while the down part I measure from the down upwards 3 inches to get the curve. So I've curved it out like so. As you can see, it's looking all beautiful and well shaped. So I'll be keeping this aside to cut my lining piece. So these are my lining piece, and I'll be cutting it out just following the same pattern, the same shape the top looks like. So while I'm cutting the lining, you can take this little time to subscribe to this channel so you miss out amazing, beautiful, creative content from me. And click the notification bell so you get notified or be the first to know when I upload new video or the sewing video for this beautiful top. So I've gone ahead to cut my lining following the same pattern for the top, for the Ankara piece. And at this point, I told you we kept out 1 inch for joining to the lining. So the lining is not supposed to be equal with the Ankara piece. So I'll be marking out 1 inch each, 1 inch each on this lining. So I'll be marking out 1 inch on this lining. Okay, so you do that for the front piece, the back piece. This automatically removes the 1 inch extra that we kept for the hemming. So I divided the front for the lining as well, and I'll also be notching the lining. Okay, so this is the stay I'll be using to as an interfacing for this top. The width of the sleeve measures 30 inches by 16 inches. So I folded it into 4 places and making everything to sit equally. So now I will be using the front to cut the sleeve. So this will be a guide for the front armhole and the sleeve armhole to mesh together. I took out 1.5 inch on the sleeve, the upper part of the sleeve, so I can be able to fold it inwards and pass my elastic inside. If you don't want to use your front piece to cut your armhole, you can as well drop the 4 inch you dropped for the front and the back piece to get your armhole, which is 7.5, adding your elastic allowance to it. I hope this tutorial was helpful to you. If it was for you, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, click notification bell so you'll be the first to know when I upload new video. Comment below if you have any questions or suggestions. Thank you. See you in my next video.